every end of the month on BBC Radio Norfolk, it's all about local comedy. And this Sunday lunchtime, BBC New Comedy will be making us giggle in a show that's ever growing and bulging with new talent.
Nowadays, if you call into companies, you talk to machines. I have an accent, and the machine sometimes doesn't get me, and then I have to repeat myself. Who knew there'd be a day when you would miss those people who would answer the phone all the way from Mumbai, and they had an accent, I had an accent. We took ages to understand each other, but they got me. They cared about my feelings.
A group of comical volunteers band together every month to give you the best stand-up and sketches that they have to offer. Before every show, we like to meet one of the comedians involved. I usually introduce the guest on the show, but I would prefer the person with me in the studio to introduce himself.
My name is Nelson Tinashe Gombakomba Jr. the second.
Oh, the second, right. I'm Stephen Michael Brenda Bumfrey the first.
Pleasure's all mine, Steve.
Yeah, good to see you again. How many years has it been since you've been in the studio, man?
It's been about 3 years since we last spoke, since we, did this interview, and so much has happened in between then and now,
So where were you then? How was your life back then, and what's happened since?
When you met me, Steve, I was a young man with a lot of, energy looking for, I had big dreams then, but now life is kind of, it's, just...
Yeah, I thought you were saying, you haven't aged that badly,
I haven't aged too much, but let's just say the young, ambitious young man you saw back in 2015, he's still the same guy, but now I've kind of adjusted it a bit.
Oh, right.
I now have a proper plan.
I had a horrible feeling you were going to say, Stephen, I'm a broken man. It's been terrible.
I'm still hanging in there, I'm still chasing that dream, Steve, 3 years later. Still.
So you made, in the clip we played there, you mentioned that you got an accent. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. Yes, came here like 10 years ago. And, went to Wyndham High, lived in Norwich the whole time. I don't know why my dad brought us here, but we no, just joking. My dad was like, you know what would be good? Let me take you to a place that's so different from where you grew up.
Yeah.
That will give you perspective in life. And I've grown to appreciate just how different everything.
So how old were you when you came, did you say?
I was 17 when I came.
17?
Yes,
right.
And I was coming straight from Zimbabwe in a city called Mutare.
And it was quite turbulent times there.
Yeah, 2008 was a crazy year for my country. There was elections, there were sort of like conflicts going on. Nothing that I wouldn't handle. Because, in the news reports, they make it seem like it's crazier, but it was just about manageable. But, we moved at that time, Stephen.
It must have been very difficult for you, because 17, I still remember what that was like.
Oh.
Even though my memories of being 17 are in black and white. We didn't have... It's very much an important time in your life, but was that a real upheaval for you then?
Do you know, what surprised me the most is the culture shock. So it's not so much the things like the weather, all that you get used to eventually. It was just how different people are. And I feel like it's a concept that's hard to grasp unless you have traveled to two completely different places, So imagine I grew up in like a country where, not to say like it's a big deal or anything, but I grew up in a country where everyone was like similar to me, and like I took for granted some attributes that I'm only realizing now because I stand out. But then I moved here, and like I had to adjust a bit. I had to get used to an accent. I had to get used to a way of thinking. It's the slight nuances between people that really, they show you just how different people are.
So we have a very different mindset here to the one you were used to.
I would say so. I would say so, but it's not to say like one is better or worse. It's just like
different.
Yeah, it's just different because there's things that, in African culture, just you must do. You see your neighbor, you see your granddad, you see all these people, you have to greet them a certain way because it's ingrained in our psyche to act like that, to be, to be that friendly or that open. Then you come here and, sometimes even when you run into someone you barely know in the street, it's even awkward stopping. But you have to.
Oh, I know. Yes, yeah.
You have to look at them in the face first, see if they give you that half smile. You know what I'm talking
and
about?
ask them something.
Yeah.
Pretending that you're interested.
Exactly.
Yeah. Great to see you.
This is a culture that hates small talk. I can say it's safe to say that, but it's it's one of those small differences,
And right now, so you moved on 3 years later.
3 years later.
Since last we spoke.
Yeah.
So how's life now then?
I'll tell you what, the comedy has gotten much better, if I do say so myself. The comedy has gotten slightly better. What I'm doing right now is I'm performing in London regularly. I feature at this club called Top Secret Comedy Club. It's one of the best in London, and the room is beautiful. Steve.
It's a good room to play, is it?
When you walk in, right, it's just... It's designed for comedy. You feel like you're home. I feel like, when you come into a place and everything is in order, the spotlight, the microphone.
How many people can you get in there then?
300, 400. It's a big room, and there's two floors as well, so I can do one show downstairs and then go perform to... if you're ever in London and if I'm ever performing at Top Secret Comedy Club, come see me.
Do you prefer a big audience? Do you prefer a few hundred? Or do you like 50, 30, 40, 50 people? What's best, what's worst?
Do you know, when I'm testing out material, when I'm still trying to work out which part of the joke to remove, I try it in a small room,
Right.
If there's like crickets and tumbleweed in a small room, you know for sure that if no one responds to some parts, then at least in a small room, it's not as embarrassing. You just don't know to say the next time. So, but when the joke is now perfected, when it's now well crafted, when you've gone through months of picking out every single word and weaving it into some sort of beautiful material per se, you do that in a big room, Steve, and it's just so beautiful. Because in a big room, the theory is that a lot of audience members would be thinking that they're just by themselves, but the fact that you're all laughing at the same time, you're all enjoying the same thing, it makes it seem
shared experience.
Yeah, it's a shared experience. And imagine that, a whole crowd just crying. Yeah,
that's the thing. See, even when you go to the cinema, just enjoying that experience with a lot of other people. Theatre's the same thing.
You don't feel like you're alone. No, and I say that in quotes. You feel like you're part of a group. I feel like if you're in a big room and there's a round of applause, the audience is loving your material, you feel like that's definitely where you're meant to be.
So where do you take this with your material then?
Would I take this with my material?
Where do we go when we come to see you, Nelson?
Do you know what? I have a specific style of comedy that I do. So when I'm on stage, I'm quite observational. I try to hit on spots that focus more on the truth rather than just shock laughter, and that takes years to develop. So there are times when I'm on stage and I mention stuff that I know for sure it's genuinely true, and when I'm presenting it to the audience, they feel they can relate to it because it's coming from such an honest place that you can't help but deny its genuineness. So when that happens, when I hit the right spot in that kind of environment,
it's just great.
Yeah, because then they get that belly laugh, and it's not it's not just laughing for the sake of it. So in terms of material, it's forced me to really think deep, to really dig deep into the subject matters that I talk about, and it's made me focus on the honest bit. So the stuff that people really they take home and they talk to their friends about. That's the stuff that's the material I'm aiming for.
Stuff you can identify with, even when you do that clip we just heard of you talking about the automated voice recognition system. I did a similar thing. I can't remember who I was trying to get. It was one of the credit card companies.
Oh my!
And it kept asking me questions and to do voice recognition. Then one of the boys came in, and he said, "What's?" I said, "Just a minute. I'm this," and I swore and swore. And I said, "This thing is getting so much on my nerves. I hate this. Why doesn't this just a human being?"
Yeah.
And I put it to my ear, and this lady said, "So you want to transfer £64,480? Is that correct? Yes or no?"
Oh my God! You end up losing That is crazy.
No.
That's the thing. It's like these little things that like annoy us in the everyday life. Because when you're talking about a subject you hate, you talk about it for ages and you're passionate about it.
Yes.
So I think when I came up with that joke, I probably called one of these companies, and the automated system made me just repeat myself too many times that I thought, you know what, I prefer to deal with a human being.
And you because in your professional, your other life, you deal with a lot of people, don't you?
I deal with a lot of people. I'm working in property management right now, and landlords, tenants, just trying to get them all to just
talk to each other,
to get along, and So.
Does that mean that you study people when you meet them?
Yes, definitely.
What makes us tick?
I feel like for an artist to be worth their weight in salt, and I say this from at the bottom of my heart, I really mean this. It's literally just studying people and reporting back to them. So when you really do understand that we are all not necessarily the same, but similar, and we have different perspectives, although we see the same thing, it's slightly different from every angle. When you can convey that to a total stranger, and if they can validate it with laughter or some sort of acceptance that what, you're right about this issue, then that's really the point that we're going for. So to get that level of honesty, you need to really understand people, and that's what I've been trying to do for the last 3, 4, 5 years.
The whole business of laughter, just genuine laughter. They say it's the best medicine, and it's been proven that.
Indeed, it is. Yes.
That happy people laugh. People who laugh a lot, happy people live longer.
They do indeed. You could say I'm a doctor. You could say I'm out here saving lives. You could make the arguments.
Yeah. So so you need to be Dr. Nelson Tanash.
Dr. Nelson
Gombakomba Jr. the second.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to heal people with this laughter.
Yeah, that's it. So come in, ladies and gentlemen. Pop your clothes over there.
It's the medicine, That's the thing. But see, that's exactly the sort of I guess that's the message that I'm going for. It's the performance in itself, it should be like medicine. You take that cough syrup, you're coughing, it's a bitter pill to swallow, but the next morning you feel better.
You do feel better
You feel better, and sometimes when I'm in a show, I say stuff that's slightly controversial. People don't know how to react, but the next morning when they're talking about it with their friends, they will indeed confirm that Dr. Nelson, that man.
It works. It sounds right, Dr. Nelson. Doesn't
Dr. Nelson. You know what? I'm gonna start using
Dr. Nelson's surgery.
Yes, indeed.
That's your TV show when it starts. That's what I reckon.
And it would just be nothing but observational comedy that really hits the soul.
You mentioned controversy, controversial subjects a moment ago.
Yeah.
So where do you dare to tread that might sort of shock members of the audience?
It's not so much the controversy that you look for; it's the subject matter. So if you go for controversy for the sake of controversy, you end up sounding like what they call a shock jock, where you just do things for shock value, and people will laugh, and but they won't remember it because there's no element of truth in that. So what I try to do is I try to go for the subject matter, and if it turns out to be controversial, that's just something that we'll deal with later, but we must focus on the truth. So if I focus on the truth of the moment or the truth of the message that I'm trying to convey, then I can worry about the controversy later, because those who hear what I have to say will testify that in as much as it is controversial, it's true. So if you can focus on the truth, the honesty, then nothing. You can't even be criticized for that, you know what I'm saying?
I'm looking forward to hearing you on the BBC New Comedy Show. It's this Sunday lunchtime.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much for coming in to see us again.
Pleasure's all mine.
Whatever you do, don't leave it another 3 years.
Hey, in 3 years' time when I come back, hopefully I'll be on live at the Polo.
I don't want it to be like 3 years' time that you're too busy to come and see us.
No, TV, you more
TV series, Christmas special, DVD box set.
Wherever I'll be, you know that I'll be focusing on the truth. And
love your work. Thanks very much, Nelson. Thank you very much.
Remember the words you told me, love.